Thanks for joining this episode of our webinar series on best practices in eDiscovery, generative AI, and digital forensics. Today's session is focused on an ever-growing source of electronically stored information, or ESI, in litigation, and that is the smartphone. With almost 4.5 billion smartphone users globally, daily adult usage approaching 4 hours, and more than a zettabyte of data stored on these devices, as well as their role in accessing data anytime and anywhere, both for personal and corporate uses, their rise to prominence as a source of ESI in litigation shouldn't be a surprise. Today, we're going to walk you through the types of data and evidence that you can collect from a smartphone and how those collections are performed. And then we'll also walk you through how to utilize generative AI to analyze that data as well. Smartphone evidence has become increasingly insightful with location-based data and artifacts that identify the apps that were being used at a given time, even if they were deleted afterwards. And after we cover all the smartphone evidence that can be collected, we'll also cover how you can leverage GenAI and an eDiscovery platform to rapidly analyze the evidence and extract what you need for your case. My name is Jeff Fugit. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer for Lexby, and I'll be the moderator for today's event. We've got a lot of information to cover, so I'll jump right in. Our webinars take place monthly and cover a variety of relevant eDiscovery and digital forensic topics, trends, best practices, and strategies. We've got limited seating, so be sure to register early for the sessions that are of interest to you. If you have technical issues or questions, please email us at webinars@lexby.com and we'll address them right away. Our webinars are available online at lexby.com for viewing via streaming video or downloadable as a PDF presentation or MP3 podcast. You'll find this webinar and a complete listing of other webinars at lexby.com or on our YouTube channel. If you have any questions during today's session, please enter them into the Q&A portion of the GoToWebinar console, and we'll answer them after the event. To be notified of future live and on-demand events, please email us at webinars@lexby.com and follow us on LinkedIn, as well as follow us on YouTube. For more than 18 years, Lexby's been helping legal teams with limited resources handle document-intensive matters. Nearly 9,000 legal professionals have come to rely on Lexby. We have the industry's most affordable and full-featured DIY cloud-based eDiscovery platform, including integrations with ChatGPT and other generative AI models. We have the industry's fastest eDiscovery processing and document review platform. This is important because being fast means you have more time to build a better case. We're consistently rated as having the best customer service and support, the easiest to administer, and the easiest to do business with. We've also been rated by G2 as delivering the fastest return on investment. We have a full forensic lab staffed with Celebrite certified forensic investigators, as well as Magnet Axiom certified forensic investigators who perform full and targeted forensic collections across all types of devices, including smartphones. And if you'd like a demonstration of our platform, simply email us at sales@lexby.com and we'll get that scheduled for you. Our guest speaker today is Nick Marrero. I'll let Nick introduce himself to you. And before I turn it over to him, I'm going to ask for your participation in some polling questions. And our first polling question is, what percentage of your cases involve electronically stored information, or ESI, from a smartphone? And while you're answering that, I'll thank you for participating in our polling questions today. All right, I'll go ahead and close that poll. And our next polling question is, are you investigating the use of GenAI models like ChatGPT for use in your organization? Looks like we've got a few more answers coming in. And I'll go ahead and close that poll. And without further ado, I'll turn it over to Nick Marrero. Nick?
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining our webinar today. My name is Nick Marrero, and I'm the Digital Forensics Manager at Lexby. I've been performing digital forensics for over 14 years now, I received my bachelor's degree in computer forensics from Bloomsburg University of Pennsylvania. I'm a certified Celebrite operator, a certified Celebrite physical analyst, and a magnet certified forensic examiner. On today's agenda, we're going to be going over best practices when it comes to smartphone collections, our workflow that we follow, information on the chain of custody that is used. We're going to go over the growth and evolution of mobile devices, specifically smartphones. We're going to look at the different operating systems. We're going to be looking at mobile device forensics, our extraction methods, what can be extracted. We're going to look at text message and chats specifically. We're going to go over the metadata, information on deleted data, reporting, and data load file exports to get your data into a review platform. For best practices, these are the steps we follow to ensure that the device is preserved in the proper manner and is kept safe during the preservation process, and all the data is properly extracted from the device. We ensure we make proper documentation of everything that we do, including the chain of custody form, the photographs that we take of the device to show the condition we received it in, and note any condition of the device, anything on the device that could possibly warrant an issue, including cracked screens or chips on the device, to make sure that we document that that's how we received it. We follow proper evidence handling procedures, make sure we tag the device, we keep the device with the chain of custody form, and when the device is not in use, we store it in a safe and secure location. Write blockers are mainly used when it comes to computer devices or external devices to prevent the evidence from being modified during the preservation. For mobile device preservations, for the most part, we're unable to use write blockers since the data needs to be written on the device itself in order for our forensic tools to actually work. Coordination and strategy agreed upon between the requester and examiner. This is important. We make sure that we are communicating properly with our clients or the custodian to ensure that the correct data is being collected. And once the collection is complete, what data needs to be extracted so we can provide it to our clients for their review. Examination should not be performed on the original media, but rather on the forensic image. Once the data is collected from the device, we do not touch the device again. We're not going through the actual device to look for certain pieces of evidence like messages or photos. All the examinations are performed on the image that we create or the collection that is done afterwards. Once the phone or the computer, whatever the device may be, has been imaged, then that goes back to either storage or sent back to the client or custodian. And the forensic image is all that we work on. This makes sure there's no spoliation of evidence, and nothing that we do on the device could alter or change any of the information on that device. Reporting, provide all relevant and pertinent information in a clear and concise manner. With reporting, we make sure that we show every single step that we take in the preservation, analysis, extraction process to make sure that once the device is preserved and our analysis is complete, that our client will get a full report of exactly what was done, how it was done, when it was done. Every single step we take during the process, what tools are used, what methodologies are used, everything is documented in our report. And that will also include chain of custody forms, any photographs that are taken, all the documentation that was done during the process. And of course, the return of the devices, we want to ensure that all devices are returned exactly how they were received and go to the correct place. So coordination with our client to ensure that we have the correct addresses, using specific shipment options to make sure that the device is signed for once it's received, or if we're handing it back the device in person, we're giving the device to the correct person, and that person then signs the chain of custody form, so we have a complete chain. So digital forensics, what is it? Digital forensics is the identification, preservation, analysis, and documentation of digital media. The identification section of, or part of digital forensics is the determination of what evidence is present and where and how the evidence is stored. The preservation section includes the isolation and of the data and the creating the digital images of the data. So this is where once we have the data, we actually use our forensic tools, our forensic methodologies to create that preservation, aka forensic image of the device. The analysis, this is where we review the data that's been preserved using forensic tools and methodologies. During the analysis, we will look for key things that are of interest to our client and make sure that we are tagging things in our tools, tagging items of importance, as well as creating the report on the way. And that goes into documentation, where we're creating our forensic report that includes our findings, our chain of custody, and any photographs. Data sources include computers, mobile devices, servers, cloud, tablet, email, hard drives, optical discs, USB thumb drives, literally anything you can think of that has digital data on it. Those would be our data sources that we can collect from. So if you have a laptop versus a desktop versus a cloud location, any of those items can be collected in a forensic manner or to the best of the ability of the forensic examiner to ensure that there's no spoilage in the data. As of 2016, 89% of US households have at least one computer. As of 2021, 85% of US adults own a smartphone. To think about how many people actually use any type of digital device, whether smartphone or computer, and which I'm sure has grown since those dates of 2016 and 2021, can be unbelievable at sometimes, especially since it wasn't long ago that none of us had a smartphone. They didn't even exist prior to 2005. Now the majority of adults have one, and all the things that can be done on these devices, sending messages, communications, taking pictures, searching the web. There's just so much that can be done and so much evidence that can be retrieved from these devices when it comes to your case. Digital forensics can hold the key to cracking a case, whether it's finding internet history, uncovering those deleted files, or even simply determining the last modification date of a document. No task is really too small when it comes to digital forensics. And no matter what you're trying to prove in your case, we're here to try to help you kind of put the puzzle pieces back together in a digital sense to help your case move along. So here's our workflow that we usually follow. The first step would include planning, which would be the communications with the client and obtaining all necessary information we need to successfully perform our collections. Next step is the collection, where we receive the device and begin the documentation, followed by preservation, which is where we forensically preserve the device. The analysis, this is going through the device, investigating anything you need us to investigate, followed by the export, and this is where we export the data requested if there is specific data types that you're looking for, whether it's photos or any text message between party A and party B. We would then export it out of the collection and then put it up to a place where you can review it, whether it's delivering it directly to you or putting it up on a review platform where you can then go and bait stamp and redact, etc. And then finally, the return of the device, making sure it's going back to the place where it needs to be returned to. When it comes to preservation time, specifically for mobile devices, we tend to say about 2 to 4 hours to complete the actual preservation of the device. And of course, that really depends on the type of device and size of the data on the device. something, phones are going up to over a terabyte now. I think I've seen one that was over 2 terabytes. So it's a lot of data that can be stored on these phones. So the more the data, the longer it's going to take to actually preserve it. Devices received for preservation at the beginning of a day can generally be returned or shipped back to the client or custodian by the end of the day once preservation and QC is complete. So if we get the phone at, say, 9 o'clock in the morning and we start the preservation process, we are very likely to get it back out in the mail by the end of the day so it can be delivered to you or your custodian by the beginning of the next day. And then when it comes to remote preservation, remote collections of mobile devices are possible with the right tool set. So there are certain forensic tools out there that can perform remote collections of phones, smartphones. And some phone data can also be stored in the cloud. So depending on where the phone data is, collection can be done remotely of the phone itself or of a cloud backup or a cloud repository that houses the data of the phone. And mobile device backups can also be stored on a computer. So specifically when it comes to iPhones, there will be an option in iTunes to create a backup of your phone on the computer to save for the future. So a lot of times we can even walk a custodian through creating that iTunes backup and sending it to us if all other options are not available for them. And then of course preserving the actual phone or actual device is recommended. This way we have the device in our hands and we know if there are any errors, any issues that pop up, we're there to see it right away and we can fix anything that goes wrong. And we're also ensuring that we're getting the most complete data set when we preserve the phone. Here's an example of a chain of custody form. So on these forms, we have all the information about the device itself, including the manufacturer, the make, the model, serial numbers, any device descriptions. So this is where we'll put information about, say, a cracked screen or the color of the device. We have our signature section at the bottom where we will print and sign names of who we received it from or who it's received by. So typically the first signature will be the custodian and they will be signing it over to either you or to the forensic practitioners who are performing the collection. And then eventually it will be signed from us back to either you or the custodian. And then there's also case information, so we can write information about the case that this device pertains to, making sure everything can be traced, basically for a paper trail from case to custodian to device. So a little bit background of phones themselves. 1973 was when Motorola was the first company to mass produce the first handheld mobile phone. It was far from a smartphone. We could only make calls. That's it. But it was a big leap in technology at the time. In 1987, the first Nokia phone was released. And we all know Nokias are very known for their indestructibility. So there may still be some Nokias from '87 lying around somewhere. In 1992 is when a text message or SMS message is sent for the first time. 1994 is when IBM released the first smartphone. And it was more of a Palm Pilot. It was considered the first smartphone. 1998 is when 3G network was launched, which I found interesting because I thought that wasn't until the mid 2000s when 3G came out. But that was a fun fact while doing this research. In 1999, mobile devices are released that include the following features for the first time, which are internet browsing, MP3 players, GPS enabled, and camera, all on separate devices made by separate companies. It was a lot of different pieces going into one device from all these different companies, but they were able to somehow fit them into one place, the first smartphone with all these features. In 2005 is when Apple released the first iPhone, which really pushed smartphones into the common lexicon, and where everybody starts to actually purchase a smartphone. In 2008, the first Android phone was released, making smartphones even more widely available. In 2009 is when 4G network is born, and then in 2019, the launch of 5G. So it's definitely come a long way, especially over a very short period of time. If we look at when the first iPhone was released, less than 20 years ago, to now, and how far phones have come in just that short amount of time. And this graph is showing the number of users in the millions for smartphones and showing where we are projected to be by 2029. So right now we're looking at around 4.5 billion, that's a lot, of people using smartphones. And then by 2029, we're going to be above 6 billion. When mobile device forensics, so specifically for this, we have, it's a branch of digital forensics focused on the acquisition, preservation, and analysis of mobile devices. So smartphones are basically the number one mobile device you can think of, and that would include iPhones, Androids, Microsoft phones, and Blackberries. Even though they, aren't very popular, they still do exist. We've got tablets, including the iPad, Android tablets, Microsoft Surface, and other Microsoft tablets, and the Amazon Fire tablet. There are also quote unquote dumb phones. These would be the phones that just make calls or texts that don't access the internet. And they would be like your common flip phone or brick phone from the late 90s, early 2000s. And other devices that are mobile devices include GPS devices and drones. Pretty much anything that can move around with you would be considered a mobile device. You can even argue that a laptop would be a mobile device. But for this instance, we're not thinking of that. And then forensic tools that are used for mobile device forensics include Celebrite, Magnet Axiom, Encase Mobile Investigator, Rocket, which is a great remote phone collection tool. We have Oxygen Forensics Detective and Paraben E3DS. So when it comes to the actual operating system on the phones, it's pretty much 4 main operating systems. And you can tell by this graph that 2 of them dominate. Android has the market by far because Android phones are very widely available and come in a variety of different price points, from pretty cheap phones to the most expensive. Samsung is out now. Next is iPhones or iOS operating system. And this would be the operating system you find on all your iPhones and iPads. And then that little tiny red sliver, that would be your mobile, Windows Mobile and BlackBerry. Even though they are not, I don't even think they're in development anymore, but those phones still exist. So we have to kind of count them. And here are some challenges and solutions for mobile device forensics. Challenge would be the ever-growing and evolving smartphone market. Every single year, we get new iPhones, we get new Samsungs, we get new Google Pixels, and that doesn't even count any of the other Android smartphone manufacturers. So it's constantly new devices, constantly new types of encryptions, constantly new types of functionalities on these devices that basically the forensic software companies need to play catch up on. Any type of new device is released, these forensic companies are working to ensure that their tools can extract the data properly from them. And there's the data storage locations. So not only are you storing the data on your phone itself with up to 2-3 terabytes of space, there's also the cloud. So a lot of data just automatically gets stored on the cloud. For instance, Google has their Google Drive that data will just automatically go to rather than being saved on your device to ensure you keep space on your device. And then with iPhones, there's iCloud. Everything can get pushed to the iCloud and you can access it through your device, but it's not stored locally. Then along with the devices changing, the operating system changes also. And then of course, the growing sizes of the phones. It's very time intensive when you get into these big 2-3 terabyte size devices. So what are these solutions? Like I mentioned, forensic software companies continuously keeping up with the changes, but they do a great job at it. So within weeks, we have an update to our forensic software after a major phone release, and they continue throughout the year to ensure that they're keeping up. There are training courses and certifications for forensic practitioners. We like to keep a training schedule and to ensure that we are up to date with all the different types of methodologies that are coming out to help collect all these newer devices, and even new methodologies for the older devices, since new things are discovered at all the time. And there's more data to uncover from newer mobile features, so there's just more stuff to look at. So it kind of makes forensics fun, because there's a new way to collect, there's a new way to examine, there's a new way to analyze. New techniques continue to be developed, which is great for our the forensics community. Mobile device forensics tools, including Celebrate and Axiom, support so many different devices. Last time I checked, Celebrate has support for over 12,000 different mobile devices. So from the most popular to the most obscure, from items that are phones that are only sold overseas or only in Japan, to the oldest device you can think of. Celebrate is great for the amount of devices that it can collect from. And here are different extraction methods. So when we talk about preserving data from a phone, we typically do it in one of these ways. One would be the physical. The physical extraction gets every single thing off the device itself. This will include all the logical data that you see, any of the file system data, as well as any deleted data that is still on the device, since physical collections will collect the unallocated space of the phone that's not used, or the pieces of the phone that's not used, and where deleted data may be stored. The file system, or also called full file system, this will be all that logical data that you can collect, so all the data you see on your device as the user, along with files, hidden files, database files, all these different types of things that are only on a file system. So that would be the next best option. And then for the logical data, if you're only concerned about pulling messages that you can see on the phone, or only pictures that you can see on the phone when you're looking at it, then a quick logical collection would probably be best, just to get the collection completed quickly. And there's also the advanced logical. The advanced logical is a newer collection method that appeared once physical collections were harder to come by due to the security of mobile devices. Newer devices from Apple and Google and Samsung make collecting data from the unallocated space impossible. So we had to figure out new methodologies. And one was the advanced logical, which tries to get kind of a combination between logical and file system collections. Now, the best thing to do if you have a phone is to get that full file system. And there are only certain tools that can be used to get that, but that's the most complete type of collection that is possible for a lot of phones that are, released within the past 5 to 10 years. There's also the manual collection, which is the last resort. And this would be if nothing is working, we literally would take pictures of each screen of the phone and just continue to swipe and take a picture. And then also there's the SIM data extraction. So this would be extracting any data that lives on your SIM card. If you have a physical SIM card, there usually isn't much data, but there will be data about your carrier, your phone number, things like that. I just went over all of this. So this is just the information that we can get from all these different extractions. Now, when it comes to remote collections, the ability to forensically collect mobile devices remotely is relatively new in the field. It was kind of a big struggle to figure out how can these forensic companies figure out a way to get the data off your phone remotely. So tools like Celebrite and Rocket, they were able to create a methodology that deploys an agent to a host computer, say like your Windows computer, and then you're able to plug your phone in to your computer and press a couple buttons on your computer itself, and it will start collecting the data, and then it sends it over to us or to the target as the data is being collected. And right now, it's currently limited to only doing a logical or targeted collection, unfortunately. So if you're interested in getting the biggest amount of data from a phone, you'd have to send it into whatever location or have a live collection performed. And the biggest inconvenience for this, for remote collections, is for the custodians and facilitating collections from mobile devices. So making sure that the custodian or whoever will be facilitating it is able to perform the functions properly, since a lot of it falls on them to make sure the phone's plugged in, that settings are changed, and pins are entered when they need to be entered, that kind of thing. So what can be extracted from a mobile device or a smartphone? So you can get all your phone information, including the manufacturer, model, serial number, IMEI, etc. We can get certain settings on your device, including if a cloud backup exists, if Find My iPhone was turned on, location settings, time zone settings, your message retention, which shows if you have a 30-day limit on your messages before they're deleted from your phone automatically. A lot of really interesting information about your device. And then when it comes to actual data that you can pull from the device, and looking at the applications that exist on your device, usage logs of those apps, if they exist, all the different calendars, your call logs, your voicemails, contacts. This is actually these screenshots are from Celebrite of my phone. So I plugged in my phone. This was my old iPhone 12, and was able to get all these do a regular logical, I believe, advanced logical preservation of it, and getting all this information, including all the photos, videos, audio, all my different chats from Facebook to Instagram, the native messages, that would be just your iMessage, and even some WhatsApp that I used for testing. I was able to get some emails, that not all. Most email data will need to be collected remotely by getting the credentials to the email account. I was able to get web history searches that were done on my phone, cookies from the web, which would be great in showing all the different things that you can or the user was searching for on their phone or sites that they visited. We've also got system and log information. So log entries would include iPhone network data usage, interactions, so showing, this message was sent to this person at this time, or this call was made to this person at this time, or, this phone was connected to this network at this time. Great for building a timeline. Also, a lot of password and user accounts that I have saved on my phone. And then the data file, these are all the actual files on the phone that build out all the other categories. So this is all those databases and configurations and archives, all the other information lives in those. Here's another look at the different pieces that can be extracted, and gives us a count of how many they find. it's great being able to have a tool that can kind of categorize everything for you to help you with your investigation, kind of moves things along a little faster. You also have features like the timeline feature. So it will take all the information from your phone that's been extracted and create a timeline out of that. So you can see kind of the usage of the phone throughout a certain period of time. And you can zoom in on these and get, I just want to look at 2019, and it will zoom in there and show you only the things that happened in 2019. You can go even further to month or week or day or time. If you're, looking for something that happened on a specific date, this is a great feature to help us narrow things down to see what was happening on the device at that date or time. When it comes to text message and chats, there are so many messaging services available, which can make narrowing down important conversation chains difficult. But these forensic softwares help build them out. So we're able to break things down to see what different messaging applications are being used and to help find certain specific messages even easier. And then we're also able to narrow down searches when we're looking at these. So if I'm looking at a Facebook message and I'm looking for conversations between me and my friend Joe, I'll be able to do a search for either Joe's name or phone number, and it will bring up only that conversation. And then if that's the only conversation of interest in your case, then I can extract that out, and that can be the only data that you receive if that's it. Now, metadata. What is metadata? I'm sure if you've been on my webinars before, you've seen this slide, but metadata is data about data. Every single file on a digital device has some amount of metadata associated with it. The type and the amount of metadata related to a file can vary, but typically it will have dates and times of the creation, the last access date and time, the last modified date and time, have the size of the file, name of the file, the extension, authors, if it's say a Word document or a PDF, even, of course, your MD5 hash or your SHA-1 hash. So much information can be gotten from the metadata itself, and that, is not limited to computer data. It also falls into phone data, smartphone data that is collected. Now, deleted data. Deleted files from mobile devices can be more difficult to recover due to their free space on the device being unavailable to access. A physical extraction, like I spoke about earlier, is needed to be performed in order to collect that free space. Due to access limitations on most modern smartphones, physical extractions may not be possible. So data needs to be overwritten on the device for it to actually be lost. So the sooner a collection is performed on the device, the better, to make sure that data isn't being overwritten. And of course, partial recovery of data is possible if only part of the deleted file's original location is overwritten. And so even a little bit of a piece of a deleted message or a deleted file can be helpful in a case. Files that have been recovered from the device's free space may not include the metadata required to prove ownership of the files, timestamps, or original storage location, but they will have contents that is needed to help with your case. And then, as I talked about earlier, we have reporting. This is following the preservation and/or analysis of the smartphone data, making sure that everything is included in the report, including device details, processing details, tagged and flagged evidence, summary of the investigation, key details, and findings. Also include the the tools that are used, and how the data was exported for your review, either in data load file format, PDF, Excel, HTML, etc. Now, exporting to load file is great for putting the data into a review platform. Specifically, when it comes to messaging data, it's very helpful. So tools like Celebrate and Axiom, they offer the ability to create a data load file from mobile device data, and they can be put into, Lexby, they can put into any review platform. And these load files contain all the metadata for the files within the phone or, that have been extracted, making it very easily reviewable and searchable. When it comes to chats, putting those chats or extracting the chats into low file format, once they're in the a platform for your review, all the parent-child relationships are still kept. Any attachments are still attached to the message that was sent. We'll have all the dates and times, all the sender, receiver information of the message. You can get it extracted into the full chat extracted as well. And then each individual message can be extracted and linked to their family in the chats. All right, and from collection to eDiscovery workflow, the data is collected using the forensic tools and ingested into the eDiscovery review platform. Data forensically acquired directly from the source, so you know that the data, there wasn't much of a movement of the data, except for going from the device to a forensic tool to the review platform. It's very easy to get everything, done all in kind of one stride. And the data can be uploaded in different formats, including raw data, PDF, spreadsheets. With the load files, you're able to get the natives of each of the files. So everything will be in the platform for you to review the way that it should be seen. And it can be available to the client immediately after the forensic collection is complete, which is nice, especially here at Lexby, being able to have everything done in-house. So that brings us to our key takeaways. We have mobile device forensics is a subset of digital forensics. It's the acquisition, preservation, and analysis of mobile devices. There are a multitude of different types of mobile devices that exist, so many. There's Android and iOS as the two main smartphone operating systems out there. The mobile forensic extraction methods include logical, file system, physical, advanced logical, and manual. There's a vast amount of data that can be retrieved from the mobile device. And then we have metadata, which is data about data. And then we also have deleted data, not always recoverable from a mobile device, and reporting, forensic findings and analysis summary. So that ends it for me. I want to thank you all for joining me on this webinar today.
Thanks, Nick, for walking us through what evidence can be collected from smartphones. I appreciate you providing us with those insights in the dynamic landscape of mobile devices and the evidence they hold. Now I'm going to take you through some specific GenAI use cases and how GenAI can help you navigate all of that smartphone data while you're conducting a document review for your case. I'll be showing you two examples of Lexby products, and those are Lexby Autopilot and Lexby Copilot. At Lexby, we have a GenAI-powered document review service called Autopilot, where you can have those terabytes of data collected from smartphones quickly analyzed by any of our GenAI large language models that will identify responsive versus non-responsive documents. It takes technology-assisted review to the next level because it doesn't require nearly as much training, and it provides a confidence score and the rationale for the prediction. We engineer the prompts, we measure precision and recall, and we have found that it performs exceptionally well versus legacy document review protocols and technologies. And on this screen, you'll see this chart, and you can click on any of the bars in the graph and actually go directly into the document set. While you're reviewing documents, you can also use Lexby Copilot to score your documents for relevancy or responsiveness. In this example, you can see how we created a prompt asking if a document was relevant to the space industry, the space program, or space travel. We asked for a confidence score on a scale of 1 to 10, and then to state your reasoning in 35 to 50 words, and directed the GenAI model to put it in a specific format. You can run this prompt for a single document, multiple documents, or all the documents in your case. We have pre-engineered prompts and a great prompt management console that helps you manage, share, save, and collaborate on prompts with your team. Solving alphabet soup on the fly. Many industries are burdened with massive amounts of acronyms. With the integration of GenAI into our eDiscovery platform, you can easily get acronym definitions on the fly during your document review. This not only speeds up your review, but also provides greater context. The GenAI model will analyze the document set first to identify acronym definitions, and then incorporates its own knowledge into generating the final list. You can also perform rapid sentiment analysis on the messages in your case. As Nick discussed, messaging is a primary application of smartphones, and often the sentiment of a particular message or messages can make the difference in your case. With LexB Copilot, you can quickly assess the sentiment of a single message or multiple messages. In this example, I selected 25 messages and asked for the sentiment as well as a brief summary of each message. And it also provides a direct link into each message. Smartphones and bring your own device programs often have personal data commingled with corporate data. If you're looking for personally identifiable information, protected health information, or proprietary network information in your smartphone ESI, then GenAI can be a powerful tool to help you get to that data fast. In LexB Copilot, we have pre-engineered prompts that you can run to quickly identify these key pieces of information. You can use this to help facilitate redactions or to identify protected data that was improperly handled and disclosed. Another use case of GenAI in document review is language translation. We've got a lot of IP firm customers that handle cross-border cases. Within your data set, you can quickly have LexB Copilot with ChatGPT automatically translate the document into the language of your choice. The fluency and accuracy of the translation is excellent, and it helps you handle more cross-border cases and not rely on expensive human translators. This next use case is a big one, summarize. With our multi-doc prompt, you can quickly summarize a single or multiple documents that are relevant to your case. It works great on all types of ESI, including depositions and medical records. GenAI really does a great job of taking early case assessment to the next level. You can quickly identify key dates, key entities, capture a summary, and quickly understand the landscape of your case. In our last example of how to apply GenAI to your smartphone forensic collection, you can ask LexB Copilot to generate a document chronology of the key events. Again, the accuracy and power of GenAI large language models like ChatGPT and Claude are exceptional and can help you achieve a competitive advantage. As I mentioned previously, we've got a state-of-the-art digital forensic lab. We perform full and targeted collections. We maintain the evidentiary chain of custody that Nick demonstrated. We perform comprehensive investigations, analysis, and reporting. And we perform remote and on-site collections that cross a vast number of different types of systems and storage. That leads me to our next polling question, and that is, do you have a digital forensic project, and would you like a complimentary consultation? All right, I'll go ahead and close that poll. We work with thousands of litigators to help them solve their eDiscovery challenges. Jordan Hallett is a sophisticated litigator running a multi-office firm. Most of his cases involve larger, well-funded opposition. With LexB, he likes having ChatGPT integration available at his fingertips so he can quickly gain insights into the relevant case documents. David Jones was concerned that he would be outgunned by his AmLaw opposition. He quickly realized that LexB was a great equalizer and helped him build his best case that delivered a winning verdict. Paige Tackett at Thomson Co. needed Lexby speed to get some productions out the door to meet deadlines. Lexby is lightning fast and gets you from document ingestion to productions faster. And Patrick Biggins needed an easy-to-use eDiscovery platform to handle document-intensive cases for his firm. Lexby got him onboarded fast and provided the support they needed to build a strong case. And with that, I'll ask our last polling question. Would you like a demo of the Lexby eDiscovery platform with the Lexby Copilot Generative AI integration? While you're answering that, I'd like to thank you for attending today's session. We'll be making the following available to webinar attendees: a recorded streaming version, an MP3 podcast, as well as a PDF. Please let us know if you have any questions or comments about this webinar or suggestions for future topics. This webinar is part of the Lexby eDiscovery webinar series. For notices of future live and on-demand webinars as part of this series, please email us at webinars@lexby.com or follow us on LinkedIn. Also, we'd like your advice regarding our webinar series. Please complete the survey at the end of today's session. It helps us continuously improve this program and cover the digital forensics, generative AI, and eDiscovery topics that are most relevant to you. And with that, I'd like to thank Nick for presenting today and thank you for attending. Be sure to follow Lexby on LinkedIn so you'll be alerted to the latest podcast and webinar episodes, and watch your inbox for an invite to our next webinar on best practices in eDiscovery, generative AI, and digital forensics. Take care.